also had Dave Madej from Aurora Innovation. We had Vic Zhao from BP Pulse, and also Nia Palmer from Terawatt. All of those are out there at tv.freightwaves.com if you want to catch up on something you might have missed. But we're back. We're happy to be here. We've got a good friend of the show, Mike Roth from the North American Council for Freight Efficiency with us today. Mike is going to talk about a couple of things with us. First, what he calls and has coined the term the messy middle, a new report that they put out this week when they were down at the Technology and Maintenance Council for the ATAs down in Florida. He's going to join us from there in just a few minutes. But first, we want to hit a few headlines. Most of them are coming off things that have happened today on Wednesday. First of all, we are interested to see that Workhorse Group is making some progress now towards getting back to building vehicles. They managed to build 23 electric trucks off of Green Power chassis that were provided in the fourth quarter. They'll continue that here in the new quarter, in the new year, I should say. And then they'll start working on some of their other future products. They've completely gotten out of the C1000 business that they decided they couldn't do anything. So they're just basically scrapping those vehicles and trying to sell off or dispose of the parts. We also got news today on the hydrogen front with Hyliion Holdings and Hyzon Motors working together on a fuel cell version of the Hypertruck ERX. This is a ways down the road, but we'll see a version of it, a mock-up at least, in the fourth quarter. This is a bit of a surprise because Hyliion, which is one of the few that actually has a little bit of money in the bank right now and able to pursue its goals. Hyzon, not so much. They're struggling right now, and they did get an extension on being delisted from the NASDAQ. But fuel cell technology is strong for them, but they've got a lot of financial issues to work through. Finally, I mentioned that it is the TMC meeting this week down in Orlando. And that's where Mike will be joining us from. But a couple of technologies, more than a couple, there are a lot of technology announcements, maybe call it quarter turns in the industry. One that really stood out, though, was Grote Industries and Stonehenge working together on a video mirror version, not a video mirror, excuse me, but a version of a wired rear view trailer camera. This is the technology that Stone Ridge, does the video mirrors, and Grote is the two of them say this is the first of this particular type of technology that will basically send real-time video directly from the back of the trailer to a video display in the cab. So that was one that stuck out. You might look at the newsletter this Friday, the Truck Tech newsletter, for more. Okay, at this point, let's switch over to our guest, Mike Roth from the North American Council for Freight Efficiency. He is a longtime executive director there. Has been in the auto industry, trucking industry for about 35 years, all told. Mike gets around a lot. He's got not just his ear to the ground, but also as a regular speaker at events, just as he was this week at the TMC. He's a former Navistar engineer, and we're really glad to welcome Mike into the show.
Hello, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, man. And first, I got to thank you for filling in. You're super to take my call at whatever hour that was this morning and tell me that you could come on. So, like I said, I owe you one, and I'm happy to pay back for it. Listen, you've got some stuff to talk about, though, which is really great. I'm excited to have you because we talk at a lot of these events that we go to together, and we just have an opportunity to kind of stay up on what's happening both in electrification and a lot of the technology space. Yours, of course, and your group has been focused on freight efficiency, and that's something that I think you kind of hold that area yourself. You've got a lot of people in the industry that follow you and are interested in what you've got to say. You just put out a report here earlier this week down at TMC, kind of updating something that you coined a few years ago called the messy middle. And I wondered if you could kind of take us through what you learned.
Yeah, well, first of all, we weren't seeking 3 years ago to talk about a messy middle. We were actually doing work on electric heavy-duty tractors and the transition from diesel to electric. And what we found that was fascinating to me was that, yes, that was going to happen, but there was going to be other things happen before a full movement to electric. and maybe I should say battery electric and fuel cell electric. And so we said, we think what's going to happen is there's going to be a time where technologies like natural gas, renewable diesel, maybe hybrids, a bunch of other technologies that might enter while we're doing the transition to the zero emission trucks. And we were trying to figure out exactly what to call it when the idea came out, messy middle. So it was not we sort of stumbled upon it, and then it became sort of a thing, Alan. And so we decided to update that here in 2023. Really, we did all the work in 2022, and we confirmed that we and even more so that trucking wants to decarbonize right now. And some of these technologies aren't ready for all of the duty cycles. So, burning less diesel is a decarbonization strategy, and move into these other technologies ahead of fully going to zero emissions is going to happen and is happening.
Yeah, so we hear from fleets all the time that transitioning to electric trucks is slow going. I mean, it's we hear it at every conference we go to, and yet there's a lot of pressure out there from customers. These fleet customers who are saying, you need to help me, Mr. Manufacturer, meet my decarbonization goals, and I'm counting on you to do that. And yet we're finding a bit of a tension there, walking in the tension, because the technology, maybe the trucks are a little ahead of the infrastructure. I think that's the general impression we get. Are you getting this kind of feedback out there too, Mike? Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, so shippers, it's a whole supply chain thing. So the public is demanding more sustainable freight movement. Shippers are trying to respond to that and then ask carriers. And of course, carriers are then looking to their suppliers to make it happen, whether it's for the trucks or for the infrastructure or even the utilities. I would maybe disagree that it's taking longer than we thought. Of course, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. But things like terminal tractors, e-commerce, some of those are moving to battery electric, really quickly. Now, heavy-duty tractors, even regional haul heavy duty. In our report last summer, we talked about how we're pretty secure with about a 200-mile heavy-duty tractor. That actually takes more of the market than a lot of people think, but still a small part of the overall heavy-duty truck market. So, yeah, a bit slower. And I would definitely agree with you on the infrastructure. Yesterday at a panel here that I participated on, Rob Reich of Schneider was really talking about how they're being driven to do the sustainability piece, and really looked across the panel at PepsiCo saying, here's PepsiCo taking incredible actions with their private fleet, and Rob and Schneider haul goods as a carrier for PepsiCo. So that whole, that's scope 3 emissions for PepsiCo and scope 1 for Schneider. And, that's really what's happening out there. And, it's a time to act. I mean, that's one of the biggest thing we said this week is, and my colleague Jeff Seeger said it really well. He said it used to be that, freight got moved by how fast you could get it there, by time and by money. And now there's a third element to that. It's time, money, and how sustainable are you moving my freight? Now, not every shipper's doing that, but it's definitely happening, Alan.
Well, I guess I have to insert here because I'm always impressed at how scrappy the Diesel Technology Forum is in terms of selling their story. That is, that diesel is cleaner than it's ever been, and that sort of thing. You also, in some of your earlier programs, have looked at things to help those diesel trucks. I mean, until you got into doing run on less electric last year, everything was kind of focused first on, I think, long haul, and then on medium duty. So you're very familiar, and you come out of the diesel business, right, at Navistar.
Right.
What are these guys doing? Are they going to be able to make their case? Like I said, they're scrappy as all get out, right?
Yeah, a few things. I mean, there's nothing like competition for the current baseline or the current technology to improve. And we've seen that. We've seen that with, of course, NOx and PM through regulatory measures, but also in carbon and fuel economy measures. And, you look at what we've done to increase the fuel economy of diesel tractors from, 5 to 6 to 8, and even 10 mile per gallon in some cases is huge, and it's saving $5 a diesel fuel right now. But that's not going to be good enough. It's just, I don't know if this will play with you or with the whole audience, but diesel fuel has been fantastic for moving freight. And we have a chart in our report. The problem is that it creates a lot of emissions. It's bad for our environment. And over time, we're going to have to figure that out, and it's starting right now with some of these, zero tailpipe emission vehicles that are going to run off of, either green hydrogen or a much cleaner electric grid with respect to renewables.
Yeah. We were listening to Thomas Healy from Highland earlier today on their earnings call. And he said, and Thomas is interesting because, he's doing a hybrid program with natural gas and renewable natural gas and electricity, beginning to make a little bit of progress, I think, with California in terms of kind of being accepted into the Cool Kids Club there. It was hard for him initially, and of course, today they did announce a program for a fuel cell truck. But he said today, he says, that one large fleet he had talked to, and of course he didn't identify them, but he said they've already sworn off battery electric trucks until the infrastructure issue is meaningfully addressed. What do you make of that? Have you heard comments like that?
Well, certainly, you can't answer that question without understanding who the fleet is and what kind of operations they have, right? So let's just look at heavy duty tractors, and I'll make this really straightforward. If you're a disparate route, long haul carrier where you are not sure where you're going, then he's absolutely true. If you're a LTL, return to base, but very long haul, all the LTL carriers, Southeastern Freight Lines, Old Dominion, UPS, FedEx, those folks, they are driving, 67, 68 mile an hour for out 250, 300 miles, dropping their trailer or doing a cross dock and returning in the same day. That's not ready for battery electric, even though it's a pretty consistent route where the truck goes to those two bases and could charge there. We still don't have the trucks to do that. But if you're in city tractors and beverage and a lot of even groceries, food and beverage, drayage, some of those things where it's a consistent run, shuttling, manufacturing shuttles, where the truck stays on that route and has opportunities to charge. That's really exciting, and that's a battery electric truck now. So, I would say, if he's talking about the first or the second, I would say he's absolutely right, and I agree with that fleet. And those are somebody who absolutely should consider some of these technologies in the messy middle. Leon and Thomas, a good friend of mine, I've known him since he was at Carnegie Mellon, and he's done a fantastic job creating a technology that can be implemented ahead of some of these longer term solutions.
Yeah, let's stick with that for just a minute because another company you're pretty familiar with, Cummins, is now really pushing hard on this whole idea of fuel agnostic engines. They started with a natural gas that comes out next year and 15-liter natural gas. Then they're looking at hydrogen in 2027 and a few others. Where are you on sort of these interim steps, if you will? You're still burning stuff, right? I mean, you're not zero emissions, but you're getting down there. Where are you with some of that?
Yeah, so we part of what we announced this week is that we're going to dive into those messy metal technologies. So we are going to be doing what we call a confidence report on renewable natural gas, compressed natural gas tractors this year. And so we'll get into it and really start to not only understand what that technology can do in the sustainability area and how it would perform and so forth, but also, how fleets could do that and then later on move to battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell. Because one of the things that we had as a finding in the report this week was that we want manufacturers and fleets to really understand your capability around your pipeline. And what we mean by that is that, if you're a fleet and you want to go to natural gas or renewable natural gas or even hybrids, do you have the capital, the funds to do that, and the resources to get it done? Before then, maybe the zero emission comes and you want to do it. So, yeah, absolutely. Now you said something kind of interesting, and not all of the alternative fuel folks like us saying we're going to burn hydrogen in an engine or we're going to burn this in an engine. You're absolutely right. It's still combustion. And so, even though some of the results of that combustion are really low compared to diesel, it's not zero. And there's a benefit to zero. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a good thing around near zero or better than diesel. We just have to figure out how to fit that in. Another thing around this pipeline would be like the truck builders. All the truck builders need to very seriously look at all of these solutions and figure out which ones they're going to put into their models. I would submit engineering all of these solutions in all of their truck models is too much, and they may not do it, all of them well. So they're going to have to pick and choose given their market segment, and it's going to be really exciting times to watch here, Alan.
Well, you can take a different message to pretty much every show right now. You don't have to stay on message because you can switch them around. You got lots to talk about. You counsel fleets and others that, they really need to understand, and you kind of covered this, but I want you to go back to it. This idea that there is you got to know certain things about your fleet, your diesel fleet. You've got to know, what are their duty cycles? What are their loads? Where are they going? Which you've already talked about. Are these guys getting the message that they need to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the industry's always been smart around placing technologies, in the right place. But diesel was very forgiving, and what I mean by that is, you could pump, 200 gallons into a truck if you're doing 8 miles to the gallon now. I mean, that's kind of at least 3 days of driving. And so it gave you a lot of flexibility, the fleets. And here, with battery electric trucks and even a lot of these solutions, they're different. And we are going to have to figure out how to utilize these trucks and take advantage of their, benefits and use those. I mean, I've talked a lot about how I believe battery and hydrogen fuel cell trucks are going to attract a lot of truck drivers to our market. I'm very excited about that. Yet we have to deal with some of the challenges. I mean, it's not going to be a perfect transition.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're talking about is sort of reward, driver reward, things like that. I some of your videos that are out there on your site, you've got some drivers saying, man, I can't believe after 35 years, they picked me to be the guy, to be in the truck. And I can remember a couple of years ago riding with a veteran driver in one of those early Freightliner e-Cascadias. And he was saying, oh man, he said, I get home and I'm not exhausted anymore, because I can actually I can't. I just have to talk about it. I mean, we were shocked when drivers told us, "Well, I don't want an AMT. I want to keep a manual transmission." And then when they got into an AMT, they would never give it up. We are going to see that 10, 20, 30 fold with respect to these battery electric trucks. I mean, every driver I've ever heard just there's no way I'm going back to diesel. Matter of fact, there's an issue at some of these fleets where they're putting a driver in a demo truck maybe for 3 months. And the guys or women are just like really upset when the fleet has to give that demo back and they got to go drive a diesel. Hello, Freightliner. I think they did that. All right. So here's the question for you. I guess I'm going to let you explain it. I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure our audience does. Why do the drivers want to be in these trucks versus diesels? I mean, elementary question for you and me, but
yeah. Well, they're so quiet and clean. And but the bigger thing is how they handle getting out of a dock onto the road, out onto the freeway. They're incredibly smooth. There's no shifting. The automated transmission is really a manual transmission shifted by a robot, and so you still get major changes in RPM. That whole cab rocks back and forth. Yard tractors, it's like a golf cart, not a truck, moving trailers around a yard. And it's just extraordinary. I mean, one of the things that I think everybody should do is get out and go see these. There's plenty of ride and drives. They're in your local areas, run by DOE Clean Cities groups, or other magazines are doing them, or you just work with your truck OEM, get in these electric and even in the hydrogen trucks and experience them. And I think you'll be blown away. And that it'll be obvious pretty quick why drivers like them.
Yeah. One more before we move on to the run on less electric depot, and that is the whole idea around these trucks are expensive. There is an incentive base for them. We're seeing some numbers that look pretty good, but is there, in from what you can tell, an affordability issue for these, even with the incentives?
So I've called the battery electric truck, and you mentioned it earlier. I mean, there's people that what the hell happened to Mike Roth? He was a diesel truck guy, and now he seems so proponent of batteries. I think one of the things that just really comes out is that the battery electric truck is really a simple drivetrain, really simple. I mean, it's batteries, small cooling systems, electronics, motors, and wheels, and you plug it in and you go. The efficiency is really high. It's very, very simple. And Alan, I don't think we've yet figured out the how that affects the total cost. So I was out at the Tesla manufacturing plant not too long ago, and there's only 10 stations, less than a football field. I mean, I've run truck manufacturing plants before, and there's hundreds of people building the trucks. There's less people and less space in this battery electric truck line than there is in most engine assembly areas in truck plants where they're putting cooling systems to engines and so forth. So that, along with a lot of testing and overhead and engineering costs that I think come with the complexity of diesel, with all this after treatment and everything, I don't think we've figured that out yet. So I don't think we have a clue. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think we've got a lot of opportunity to take money out of these trucks as they start to emerge. We're in the really, really nascent stages. So I'm optimistic that we can bring that price down.
So that's a scaling question more than anything else, right? I mean, we've got to scale these things.
It's not only scaling, because I get in debates all the time with some academics and some others that say scaling's kind of cost takeout because of scaling is more of a myth than a reality. So I think there's other things embedded here that will help with electric. Now hydrogen is a little different story. I mean, it's a pretty complex system with a lot of cooling, a lot of multiple heat exchangers in these hydrogen fuel cell trucks, and that takes the complexity back up to maybe near diesel levels. So I don't know, maybe a more cost takeout opportunity in our opinion with batteries than in hydrogen.
Okay, great. All right, so let's talk a little bit. I think I got the number right. This will be your fourth or fifth run on less. I'm not sure which. You'll have to tell me. But let's talk about the new one, and then first, before we do that, Mike, take us through very briefly the history of Run on Less, will you?
Yeah, it's a great story. I love to tell it. It's our fourth. In 2016, we were literally talking about how to, make efficient trucks cool and understand, what was the best of the best out there. And we noticed on LinkedIn and Facebook, truckers bragging about their fuel economy. I'm getting 10, 11, taking snapshots of their instrument panel, telling them that. And we're like, bullshit. Are you really getting that kind of, level of fuel economy? And so we kind of put down the challenge, and we got 7 truckers to participate. We followed their trucks for 3 weeks in September. They got hit with 2 hurricanes in 2017 during the run, and they put up 10.1 mile per gallon, and that's where Run on Less was really born. I mean, we told their stories with video. 2019, we followed that up with regional haul, where we did 1 natural gas and 9 diesels, and got a lot of the big fleets involved in that. And then 2021, we tackled battery electric trucks, and we did 13 from class 3 all the way up to class 8. And, it's really fun. And in September, of each of these odd years, we stream data from the trucks. Now we're going to stream data from the charging infrastructure, but also tell their stories. We did 42 videos with Run on Less Electric in 2021. They're all out there. You brought up one with respect to the truck drivers, and we think it's really become a thing in the industry. We get asked all the time, what's going on with the run? What's the next run? So here in 2023, we are focusing on scaling electric trucks and how you get that done. So we're looking for and speaking with all kinds of fleets that are deploying a lot of trucks at one site. So this is something like 15 and more. Whether it's some smaller trucks, like you might imagine an e-commerce facility warehouse that's got trucks or vans coming in and out, all the way up to like drayage trucks to regional haul depots and so forth. And so these are probably people are out there, deploying 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 electric trucks. And this will be a lot about the infrastructure and less about the trucks. But, we love trucks, so we'll also share some information on the trucks. But that kicks off with a boot camp here in a couple of months where we do 10 episodes on, bringing in experts on webinars. The run will actually take place in September, and we're just thrilled to bring it. We're a little worried because these are so new, and we'll have some real challenges and some problems that these fleets have had at deploying infrastructure to share. But we and the fleets that are operating these trucks, we just know that by getting that out and that information out, we'll kind of razz up the industry to fix those problems and to hurry it up. Biggest thing is like supply chain for transformers and switchgear is all like 3, 4, 5 times what it was pre-pandemic. So we'll talk about that, and it's a real part of deploying these electric trucks.
Yeah, I mean, it seems obvious, and maybe you'll tell me it is, that you would go from doing a run on less electric to charging or an infrastructure play like this. I mean, this is primarily behind the fence stuff, right? This is not public charging that you're really talking.
From the truckload quoting page within TIE-TMS, you can create a new shipment to instantly display your historical lane average alongside all of the market-leading rating intelligence tools. In just a few clicks, you can adjust the quote, add your margin, select your quote response template, and email an official quote right off to the customer from the same page. Request a demo today at tie-software.com to find out how TIE-TMS can optimize your quoting process.